Welcome back, everyone. It is good to see you all. I have a bug up my butt about first aid kits lately, but not first aid kits like this. I think these are great. I think like little first aid kits that go in a pack super easily. I think those are awesome. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about what I call expedition kits, the big kits, the overlanding kits, the sailors, the offshore sailors kits. There's a problem with them, and it's really upsetting. Let's go. Okay, I think about first aid kits a lot, probably more than I should, but it's because I frequently get questions about first aid gear and first aid kits in general. So it is something that I'm frequently delving into and looking at. And I keep coming back to a handful of big companies that in particular are servicing the sailing community, the offshore sailing community, as well as the overlanding community. And the kits are expensive, easily starting at $299, are regularly more than that, and are not great. They're packaged well, but they really suffer from 4 problems. And that's what we're going to discuss right now. Okay, problem 1, dazzle them with bullshit. And what that means is first aid kits that have stuff in them that shouldn't be in a first aid kit. Or problem 1, subsection A, there are things that are in the first aid kit that should be in the first aid kit, but they're so lousy they shouldn't be in a first aid kit. So problem 1 is things like chemical light sticks, anything to do with water. I saw one kit that had water bags, like bagged water for emergencies, space blankets, anything hydration related, sunscreen, lip balm. None of those things belong in first aid kits, but it's dazzling them with bullshit because they're like, oh, look at this great stuff that comes in this. It is great stuff that you should have and have easy access to, but it shouldn't be in a first aid kit. First aid kit should have stuff for first aid. Subsection A, things that are in there that are garbage. I'm talking about the ace wrap that's that big. What are you going to do with this ace wrap? Nothing. Unless your foot is that big. I can't wrap your ankle with this. Gloves that don't work well. Sam splints that don't have any rubber, like knockoff Sam splints that don't have any sort of rubber coating on them. They're just the wire Sam splints. I think those are getting harder to find. Eye wash in a 100 milliliter bottle. I can't make this up. It's real. If you've ever had to use eye wash, you know that 100 milliliters, that's 1/10 of a liter, is not enough, right? You need a 500 milliliter or 2 of them to wash someone's eyes. A 100 milliliter bottle of eye wash is not cutting it. In that situation, just use potable water. You can totally rinse someone's eyes with potable water. And actually what I would do if I only had 100 milliliters of water, I would rinse someone's eyes with potable water. And then when I was done, then rinse with the 100 milliliters of eye wash. It's just not enough. Okay, problem 2, out of your scope, out of your mind. On wilderness medicine courses, we talk about things being out of your scope of practice, which means you are trained at a level here and you're performing a skill that is really for someone trained at a level here. You are out of your scope of practice. You are then at risk of liability. And I see things in first aid kits all the time that are out of your scope of practice, unless you're a doctor, unless you're an MD. Suture kits are the most common. Dermabond is a very common one. There are tons of problems with both of those. I've talked about it in other videos. You don't need a suture kit. You don't want to use Dermabond. They're just asking for trouble. NPAs are also very common, or OPAs are very common. If you're not trained to use them, if you don't know what an NPA or an OPA is, then you're not trained to use it, and you shouldn't be trying to use it, and you probably don't understand the problem here. And the fact is that if you've got a patient in the backcountry who needs an NPA or an OPA, they're probably going to die anyway. That is a nasopharyngeal airway or an oropharyngeal airway. It keeps someone's airway open so they can't maintain their own airway. Short of having also a bag valve mask so that you can do respirations with a BVM in the backcountry, you're never going to need one, right? Yeah, it's a great example. Don't get me wrong, NPAs and OPAs are great things, but if you're not trained how to use them, they've got to be sized. They've got to use the right one for the right person. You got to know how to put it in. It's a whole deal. Most people are never going to use them. Okay, problem 3. Buy a medication kit. It'll solve all your problem. I did a video about this a long time ago, back when I lived in Norfolk, a company that sells med kits, medication kits, that you then bring with you into the backcountry. And they have a doctor, so they can get prescription stuff. And this way you're covered if you need meds in the backcountry. There's a couple problems here. The biggest problem is that it's a bunch of different antibiotics for different things, and then some other over-the-counter meds, antidiarrheals, ibuprofen, Benadryl, things like that. The first problem is that we way overuse antibiotics. They are usually broad-spectrum antibiotics, which generally don't work very well. The more you take antibiotics, the less helpful they are. But the real problem is, if you give the wrong antibiotic, it's not doing you any good. And unless you're trained to assess a patient, you're not really going to know if you're using the wrong antibiotic. If you can't appropriately identify the cause, you shouldn't be using the med. It's that simple. 2 kits that I looked at, one of them is $299 and it has $90 worth of medications. I took the time to find all the meds online. Most of the prices were through Amazon Pharmacy, which I don't really use, but it was interesting. But the prices for most of the stuff was pretty inexpensive. You are getting a bag and you are getting the ability to email a doctor with questions, assuming you have access to email. Another kit that I found was $269. It was an altitude-related illness kit. It has acetazolamide and dexamethasone. Those are 2 different meds. The kit was $269. It has $31 worth of medications in the kit. And here's the thing. Acetazolamide is a diuretic. It helps flush fluids out of your system. Dexamethasone can give you swelling. It holds on to fluids. One is for high altitude cerebral edema. One is for acute mountain sickness. If you confuse those, you give the wrong med, you're in trouble. You don't want to do that. So yeah, it's a problem. $269 for $31 in meds. That if you're doing a trip, my friend Beth just did a trip to Kilimanjaro and worked with her doctor and was on dexamethasone throughout, and it worked great, right? So you can just go to your doctor. But this kit is like, you find yourself at altitude and now you've got altitude illness. By the way, the definitive treatment for any altitude-related illness is to descend. Yeah, not just to take meds. Problem 4, what I like to call, where's the beef? Missing tools that you really need. And this is one that drives me crazy. This is my expedition kit, the one that it lives in the van, but when I'm on a trip, it goes in the cockpit of my boat, so it's easy to get to. First thing that comes out, gloves and a stethoscope and a BP cuff with a flashlight. I could not find a single kit that had a stethoscope and a BP cuff. The ones that I found that did have them were all designed for EMTs. So they're trained to use a stethoscope, they're trained to use a BP cuff. If you are a wilderness first responder, you get those skills. Wilderness first aid does not do stethoscopes or BP cuffs, but I could teach you how to use a stethoscope on its own to determine if someone has the flu or pneumonia in about 30 seconds. That's how long it would take to teach that skill. And the kits have lots of other things that you need training for. So that's not the reason that they're not including them. You know, chest seals, you need training to understand when and why to use a chest seal. Tourniquets do actually require some training. Using them wrong can do a lot of damage. So there are tools that I put in my kit that are not in other kits based on like my experience and the things that I think are important that I am not seeing in other big like expedition, what I call expedition kits. And that is super troubling to me, that there is not a stethoscope in any of those kits. Drives me absolutely crazy. This weighs a few ounces, costs like $75 and is an amazing tool. Okay, so What should you do if you're an overlander or an offshore sailor and you need that level of first aid kit? The first thing I am going to say is take a wilderness first aid, or even better, a wilderness first responder, the 10-day course, so you have the underlying skills and know what you need to do when there's an emergency. I don't care how good your first aid kit is. If you don't know how to assess a patient and figure out what's going on, it's pretty much useless. Knowledge in your head is far more important than the gear in your kit, without a doubt. Brett from the future. While we're talking about wilderness first aid courses, if you want to take a WFA, there is one October 25th and 26th in sort of central PA. If you're interested in that, find Keystone Wilderness Medicine on Instagram or reach out to me, Brett at Adventure Otaku, and I'll hook you up with another guy named Brett who's teaching that course. I might be working it, I might not. We'll know as it gets closer. But if you're looking for a WFA in central PA, that's the one to go to. Okay, back to me. Do not get advice from your friend the doctor. They are approaching the problem at a different level of training than what you have, even if you're a wilderness first responder, or even me as a medic. It's a different level of training, and they're going to recommend things that you're A, not going to be trained how to use, B, know how to use, C, know when you shouldn't use them. Contraindications are just as important as indications. Do not ask a doctor. Talk to people who are doing the sorts of things that you are already doing and ask them, what sort of issues have you seen? Prepare for those sorts of things. First aid kits should definitely be preloaded more towards bruises, sprains, strains, simple lacerations. That's what happens in the backcountry, even at sea. Yes, other things can happen that you need to know how to deal with, but that should not be what the bulk of your first aid kit in those situations should contain. Like, a lot of these big kits will have an Israeli bandage and quick clot and a tourniquet or 2 tourniquets, lots of ways to stop deadly bleeding, but chances are you're never going to see deadly bleeding unless you're really unlucky. So yes, you need to know how to deal with those, but the bulk of your first aid kit should be dealing with the stuff you're actually going to be dealing with. However, you should have communication with your doctor to plan for your med needs. And if you want them to prescribe things that you think you might need, that's great. I am not talking about antibiotics. You probably don't need those, but prescription strength antidiarrheals or stuff like that. You can also buy over-the-counter meds that you use already that you know you don't have issues with. So you've got those in your kit if you need them. I'm not saying don't talk to your doctor at all. Plan those things out, but don't let your doctor plan your first aid kit. All of this is leading me to think, like, is this ridiculous that I kind of want to start a first aid kit company? Not like a first aid kit company that sells these, right? This is great. This market is saturated. I have no interest. I want to sell bespoke first aid kits, custom first aid kits for the trip that you're doing. If that's something you're interested in, if that's something you think I should really be considering, then let me know, because I would love to work with you. And a lot of the time I'll work with you for free because I'm sort of just getting a feel for this and if this is something that I want to pursue. So think about that if you think that's something I should slide into, because I'm really not digging the gear that I see. The other thing I'll say is, in general, I do a lot of first aid kit consultations for, like, even just little kits. If you're doing a trip and you're like, I'm not sure what should be in my first aid kit, send me an email, brett@adventureotaku.com. I am happy to help you for free. I do have a big list of first aid kit stuff for expedition kits, and that's something I'm happy to send you if you want to see what's in my expedition kits. And then the other thing that's going on is I got approached a little while ago by a very big company. I don't want to say who it is. There's a chance they might be sending me a large waterproof case. If so, I'm going to use that to build the ultimate expedition first aid kit. And I think I'm going to sell it cheaply when I'm done, unless I really love it, and then I might just keep it. We'll see. If you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. All the stuff that I've mentioned is available on Coffee, links down below. You can buy me a coffee, you can buy my gear list, you can get risk management stuff, it's all there. Head over there, check it out. Oh, books are there too. Head over there, check it out. Otherwise, I'll see you outside.